Florida's getting a lot of attention. Texas is getting a lot of attention. Now I want to introduce the governor who wants to make sure Virginia gets a lot of attention because he's been busy lowering taxes and providing or hoping to provide a more business-friendly environment and one that could entice a lot of those Northerners to try out his state. Now entering his second year as governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, who joins us now. Governor, good to have you.
Neil, thank you for having me. And yes, we want folks to come to Virginia. We're getting taxes down. We are going to have the best place to live, work, raise a family. We've had great companies move here. And so come to Virginia, folks, because we offer a lot of the good things that you might see other places. But on top of that, we're continuing to lower taxes and make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family.
You know, if you do lower that, top income tax rate to 5.5%, obviously that gets a lot of people's attention and puts you in neck of the wood with a lot of other southern states and Midwestern states, but not the 0% of Florida. So how do you counter that?
Well, tax burdens are comprehensive, and property taxes and car taxes and sales taxes and, of course, income taxes. And last year, coming in, I worked with our General Assembly, and we passed on a bipartisan basis $4 billion of tax cuts. And we're going back for more again this year for another $1 billion to get rates down. And this is how we're going to compete. And for too long, Virginia wasn't competing. And when we had Democratic leadership, they just thought that they could just put the sail up and things would go well. Well, we had 9 straight years of net domestic outmigration, and we're putting an end to that. We're going to get tax rates down. We're going to compete. I want folks to not only stay in Virginia, but come to Virginia from other states. And we're investing in law enforcement. We're getting our schools pointed in the right direction. Businesses are coming. There's great opportunities. But getting taxes down is a huge issue. Our tax initiative between last year and this year will be worth $2,000 to a typical Virginia family. We'll see nearly 50,000 Virginians have their tax liability extinguished completely. And we're just on the move to make sure that the cost of living comes down in Virginia and we can compete. And we're going to compete because that's what I'm all about, competing to win.
All right. And again, you would be favorably competing with states like New Jersey, where they have a top individual rate of 10.75%, California north of 12%, New York close to 11%, corporate rates that are a lot higher than yours, but still at around the 5% level. And, that is what makes the comparison to Florida tough, right? Are you trying to woo folks who've moved, let's say, to Florida or to Texas, lower tax states than your own governor, or do you really want to just focus on the big blue states that I alluded to?
Yeah, all of the above. And as I said, the overall tax burden is something that everybody should make sure they pay attention to. Property taxes along with sales taxes and income taxes. And as we get our rates down, I think we compete very well. But we got to get our rates down. And that's the bills that were passed today out of our General Assembly's House of Delegates are those tax cuts. And we're going to continue to work. I think that really on people's minds has to be the future cost of living. And we're demonstrating that we're going to continue to work to bring it down. Bet on Virginia because we're going to keep going.
All right. And I should point out, to your point, Florida does have a sales tax, a state sales tax, about 6%. Yours is about 1% lower. So you have to weigh the whole thing. I get that. Are you worried, though, that there had been an exodus? You've only been a governor a year now, and you would address the fact that people had been leaving, Virginia. So this experiment is not over. I get that. But are you worried?
I feel like we're doing all the right things. When I came in last year, Virginia had been a blue state. And we're one of the few states that flipped from blue to red. And we've pressed forward with getting taxes down, with streamlining regulations, to investing in law enforcement, to really investing in our schools and making sure that we're going to have the highest academic standards. We're going to make sure that our kids are prepared to do the great jobs that have been coming to Virginia. We had super wins last year with Boeing and Raytheon coming to Virginia, Lego putting their only U.S. manufacturing facility in Virginia. But we can do more. And this is why getting our tax rates down and being on that trajectory. We're on the right path, and I want folks to get on the path with us, because we can, in fact, compete for a cost of living with all the states in the United States, and that's important. It's not just those states that have historically driven people away because of high taxes, but I want folks to think about coming to Virginia and recognizing that they can have an extraordinary quality of life, a lower and competitive cost of living, and they can build their future here.
Having said that, a lot of your critics are wondering why the heck you killed the Ford battery plant over its ties to China, a $3.5 billion plant, and that 2,500 jobs that would have come now are not. They say that you ruined that. What do you say?
Well, first of all, I think the most frustrated person with our movement is President Xi. And at the end of the day, the construct that had been put together was one that was going to enable a company that is highly influenced by the Chinese Communist Party to gain access to federal government incentives for supply chains in electric vehicle batteries that are purposely set away from companies that are controlled or owned by the Chinese Communist Party. And the construct that was being used here was a workaround. It was wrong. And I felt like we had lots of people who were very interested in this particular site, and to tie it up in that kind of arrangement, which was going to eventually see great pushback from the federal government, might preclude us from another great win. This was an easy one. This is an easy one where Virginia taxpayer money, along with federal taxpayer money, wasn't going to go to the benefit of a communist Chinese party influenced company, and a workaround arrangement for what federal law is. It's a very easy decision for me. We're gonna work hard to have great companies come to Virginia. I'm pretty pleased with the progress that we're making, but in that circumstance, it was an easy decision to say no. And I think the only person who's really upset about this is President Xi.
In the meantime, you are wanting to require Virginia schools to tell students about academic awards or what have you in light of this whole scholarship program that they were oblivious to, and that's going to be a requirement. A lot of people had seized on this initiative on your part as laying the groundwork for a presidential run, that you want to be president. Do you?
Well, front one, I'm always humbled when folks suggest such a thing. I am totally focused on Virginia. I'm going to work for Virginia businesses. I'm going to work for Virginia citizens, and I'm going to work for Virginia parents and students. And what we've seen, of course, is that there's been a consistent effort by the left to, in fact, disempower parents in their children's lives, and to, in the name of equal outcomes for all students at any cost, to do things like withhold accolades and awards.
No, that clearly resonated, Governor. No, that clearly resonated. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of people said, these are national issues now. Everyone's talking about them. Everyone's talking about a lot of the things that you did, and saying that, maybe he should entertain a presidential run. Are you ruling it in, out?
What I've been very clear is I am 100% focused on the Commonwealth of Virginia. And those are the folks that elected me to go to work, and we're going to work. And I'm very pleased with the progress that we've made. There's a lot more work to do.
To serve your full 4-year term, or no?
I fully expect to serve out my term. And at the end of the day, this is one of these really clear moments, which is these initiatives to cut taxes, to make sure that we're building businesses that are in the Commonwealth and the nation's interest, to stand up for parents, to stand up for students. Virginia has been ground zero on so many of these issues. And I think the work that we're doing is, of course, leading the nation in many fronts, that we as Republicans can lead on these issues and should be leading.
Got it. And these are not shabby tax cuts. On top of the $4 billion you've already announced, this extra billion brings us to $5 billion in such tax relief. We'll see how it all goes. Governor, always good seeing you. Thank you for taking the time.